What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Front Porch Chronicles. I'm your host, Clint Foshee, and today we got my brother by another mother, aka my close friend, my roommate, my road dog, my editor. He's all of that built into one. He's a filmmaker, founder of Q3 Media. He's generated over 100 million views online. He's collaborated with major brands, legends like Ronda Rousey, but more than that, he's chasing a massive dream here to win an Oscar and create the greatest football movie ever made. My brother DeQwan Young, welcome to the Front Porch, Bob. How are you?
I'm great. One title that you did leave out was the initial editor of the Front Porch Chronicles. I was here when it
He,
started.
brother, you are the editor, the co-creator, the co-founder, dot.
All those
But
titles.
hey, all of those and then some. Then on top of that, we got our regular roommate routines. We have to evict people, fix roofs.
I got a lot of titles. I hold many titles.
So let's take it all the way back to where the story begins. You originally grew up in Pontiac, the Yak. What was it like growing up there, and what kind of kid was Quan?
The Yak. Man, I haven't heard that one in a minute. It was 90s. I don't want to say it was like super dangerous, but it was the 90s. We had a good culture, good history. I grew up around some great athletes and some great people, and it kind of shaped who I am and who I became today. So, you know, it had its mix of good and bad, but it's nothing that I would change or I wouldn't love to be from anywhere else but Pontiac, Michigan, because it instilled a lot of fight in me because we're a small scrappy town. We got to compete with the likes of Detroit, but we got some ballers, we got some artists, we got a whole bunch of talent in that city. It was a tight knit upbringing.
Definitely. What kind of kid was Lil Quan?
I was quiet, man. I didn't do like I didn't start like I started trouble and then I got punched in the face, so then I stopped starting trouble. But I was quiet, man. I played video games. I did my homework. I played baseball, football. Played football majority of my life. Played baseball the majority of my life. So it was, if you don't got your studies right, you can't play sports. So I was in the house doing homework, playing Madden, playing the 64, not causing any mischief, keeping my mom not worried at all.
You know, you talk a lot about being fascinated with superhero stories growing up. And, one of my personal favorite superheroes is the Quantumaniac. You know what I mean? I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm just going to throw that out there. What was it about those stories that pulled you in so much?
I like good guys, man. I don't want to be, you got to have some type of morality, some type of empathetic center. So, the good guys in the story, they always came out on top. And I want to be a good guy in my story. I want to be a good guy in every story. So, I just finished watching Spider-Man 2, which was like, for me, that was the movie that gave me kind of personal responsibility. I don't want to say I was raised by my aunt and uncle, but I spent a lot of time at their place. So, it was a lot that I kind of pulled from Spider-Man and kind of connected with. So that's been like my, I guess, moral high ground is, with great power comes great responsibility. But it's a responsibility that I feel like a lot of people should take. It's just, being a nice and kind superhero like person.
100%. And you hit the nail on the head of who it is that you are with being serious, being that person. But I also see where sometimes that person gets taken advantage of a lot. I think we align a lot like that because we are those guys that always want to be the hero to people, always want to help others and those things. But I see with you sometimes it's kind of a block too because you're like, damn, I ain't fixing to set myself up for this failure again. And I can relate to that. So being selective. Was there a moment when you realized storytelling might be something that you really want to pursue seriously?
It was, after I finished playing football, I didn't really like my journey to this point. I don't want to say it's all luck, but It's a set of circumstances that I would have never foreseen. Like I'm doing a documentary right now about the draft process, and my story isn't, oh, my life was over because I didn't make it to the NFL. Like, I knew it was a long shot for me to get as far as I did and to go as far as I wanted to go, and I'm fine with not doing that. What really hurt me was the economic crisis of 2000. My entire life, I was set on being an arena player. Like, I probably could have been one of the best arena football players of all time. But in 2008, the economy shut down. So that means, like, all of the secondary niche markets and entertainment kind of got squashed. And like the early 2000s, when I was watching, those players were making 70, 80 grand just to play football for 6 months. So, that was kind of my mindset, is like, hey, I'm probably not an NFL talent. I'm a little shorter, undersized, but I can probably play arena for a decade, make some money, and pull some deals out of it and make a living. So in 2008, when I graduated college, everything shut down. The arena league folded, and we were in an economic recession, so jobs were hard to come by. So I pity pattered around playing for like 7 to 8 years, had some good fun, played against some big names, but the dream wasn't realized in that moment. So I kind of pivoted towards the end of playing football to, being a YouTuber. Told my girlfriend at the time, like, when I'm done, I'm going to hop on YouTube and make money off of that. And I did. And then naturally the progression was to filmmaker, because, I think I did a really good job with the video essays and the YouTube portion of it. But, I'm a really, like, film is my home. It's my center. Like, I was, raised, like, going to the movies was my thing. Me and my homie, like, I just dropped something where me and my homie, we went and saw The Waterboy and The Rugrats. We did like a double feature. We did that like 5 times. And, I would go to the movies every Friday, catch a new flick, and then it's just become something where I can replicate things I see. So, I think that making a movie was a really great progression from where I started with football to, just an interest that I could be great at.
I tell people all the time, your creativity and your vibe, I chuckle. I don't know if you can hear me upstairs, but every time you drop a new video, it pops up on my feed and I'm chuckling. So I'm glad you found your way to that, because I feel like it's your thing. Speaking of football, you played for nearly 20 years and was a huge part of your life. What did football teach you that still shows up in your life today? As you said, it went away, but what is it that kind of stayed with you?
I think adversity is kind of one of those things, because football isn't a game. It's a back and forth. It's a roller coaster. It's emotional. It's up and down. And this is partly why I want to make a movie, because most people don't or haven't experienced those emotions while watching a game of football. But to have played it and to know, in those moments what you're feeling, what the tension is like, how bad a game is going. I want to be able to immerse people in that experience and give a more detailed look at athletes and how they prepare for games and how they have to go on about life after, a car wreck, running into each other for 60 minutes. So, I think a lot of what I want to do is centered around, I guess, being that silent kid that doesn't really talk much, but, I got a lot to say, and I feel like this is a way to express that in ways that I could actually capture people's attention.
100%. You said something funny, and I watched something on this. I don't know where I saw it, but you talked about a car wreck. And one of the things that I showed is an NFL player, the amount of damage that they do to their body was in a car and hit a brick wall going 50 miles per hour. That's crazy. Sheesh. You often talk about accountability, determination, and will. Why do you think that those three things personally stand out to you?
Those are some of the traits that made me a good football player. When I was accountable, when I spoke up in film to my coach, and I made a mistake, to be lashed out at or anything, is to correct it. I think a lot of the problems with society and being a man and masculine is not being able to stand in your rights and your wrongs. And those are kind of the three pillars that I inherited and developed on the football field, because I had 10 other people relying on me, and I had a coach whose job relied on me, and I had another coach whose job relied on me. So, if I'm making a mistake, the sooner I owned up to it, the quicker it could get corrected and fixed. And and it all that kind of plays the same outside of the football field. You got to be accountable. You're working with people whose livelihoods are on the line. So, it's just those are just three traits that I think I inherited playing football, and they served me well. So I carried those off of the field as well.
I was going to say 100% because you said it about football field, but like you do the same in everyday life. One of a million reasons why I align with you. A lot of people quit when things get hard. Football teaches you if you fell on Saturday and you still got to show up on Monday. How did that mindset help you when you got into filmmaking?
It's I don't want to say it's a toxic mindset, but it is one of those personal tests of, I guess, self-realization and accountability, because they would tell you the game isn't over till the fat lady sings. I could tell you countless games where we were losing and we made a comeback and won. And it's part of that lesson, that life lesson of never give up. You never know what could happen. Like right now I'm facing that completely because a couple years ago, or last year, I made a documentary, and I was talking to the sales agent who had it, and he was like, well, you got to get a job to kind of sustain, because this could be a long process. And the last year or so has been me trying to figure out ways to sustain and buy myself time for me to reap the benefits of something that I've already done. So I think one of the main lessons that I took away from my actual college degree that wasn't football related was life is just about troubleshooting. My college professor, she told me that, no matter what, a live broadcast, no matter what goes on, you have to get the production going and you have to get the production up, or you're not going to get paid, or you're not going to keep your job, no matter what it may be. So you have to figure out a way to solve a problem. And that's kind of how I've always been. I was a latchkey kid. My mom was always at work. So, if I didn't know an answer to something, I had to figure it out. And that's kind of one of the life lessons that I could give to you guys is, no matter what, don't stop and use your brain creatively to figure it out, because there has to be a solution.
Dropping nuggets, checking the church on a Thursday. I 1000% agree. I think life is a test, and I think it's a battle, and with the bad comes the good. And like a lot of people want good and they want peace and they want this and they want that. But it's finding that yin and yang and understanding. This is something that I talked to somebody about the other day is I said something about evil spirits and they were like, oh, you believe in that? I'm like, bruh, you can't believe in good
Good
spirits if you
spirit,
don't
yeah.
believe in evil spirits. Like there's yin and yang to everything. There's good and bad to everything. And a lot of times people get stuck in the bad, right? And they don't understand that the bad is usually a minor setback for a major comeback. And that's something with you, kind of like I'm always on you to, because I see that in you. In sometimes things will feel super heavy, but I want you to know what I see in you, and what I see in you is something that I super admire and that I know is going to be set up for a major comeback.
I appreciate that, man. That's like, I think a big part of doing this, being an entrepreneur yourself, is having to fight through those lonely moments. Like, this is tough, man. And, a lot of the times I feel like I'm doing it alone, but even in me learning and understanding this process, I'm not. I got a lot of support and a lot of help. And it's like 100% of the reason that I keep going is because, people have invested, no matter how small it was, people have invested money and time, effort in me, and I would feel horrible if I just gave up on their investment, because I made it far, but I haven't made it here by myself. So I really appreciate, like, you'll come to me in one of those moments where I'm like, fuck this shit, man, I'm going home. I don't want to do this anymore. And then you'll just say, yo, I saw what you did today. That was funny. And then it's like, in those moments, it's like, okay, what I'm doing isn't the most important thing, but it's turned somebody's day around, or it's made them smile, or it's done something positively for them. So I think I've taken a lot more of those moments and been a lot more grateful for where I'm at in this process.
You didn't casually step into filmmaking either. You have an undergraduate degree in mass communications and a master's in leadership. Law. I started reading off your thing. I'm like, my roommate's about it. I just say he creates good content, but he got documentation. When did filmmaking for you stop being more of an interest and become something like you knew you wanted to pursue?
Well, I was finishing up football and I met Brian Minto, the boxer.
Yeah.
I started my videographer business at this PT clinic in Butler, Pennsylvania, and he was coming into there. And, he started talking and telling me his story. And I was like, man, I think I can make a movie about this. This guy sounds like Rocky. So, it was 2016 and I was working at some like education connection place where they call you and give you information about finding not for-profit schools in your area. So I was
Yeah.
working there and I was like, man, I hate this. I cannot do this for the rest of my life. So I was like, let me look up some film schools. I called this film school out in California. I signed up. A year later, I think it was 2017, I came out here to shoot with my cohort. We finished a short film. And at that point, I was leading into my degree and I said, well, this isn't as impossible as it seems. Maybe I should do this. But to make a long story short, I didn't really get the confidence until last year shooting Brian's movie, just because it's a harder process than I thought. I thought you just film it and boom, it's all together, but it's about a lot of organization, and the storytelling aspect of it is crucial because I have to create the storyline, the plot. I have to make sure that I know, every beat, everything that's going on within the film. So it was a lot more energy exuding than I expected. I don't want to say I took all of last year to recover, but I started this process and I think it was like the end of 2003,
Yeah.
and 2025 last January was when we did our final showing. And that was like, it's just like a ball
A
of,
roller coaster.
yeah, man. Like I don't remember the timeline. I just know that like I was zombieing my way through it. There were moments like I didn't have the film done for the first screening until like 30 minutes before the screening. And then the second screening, it was like the same thing because I had to prepare two different versions. So
Version.
it was like stress. It was like it's the exact rush that I got as a football player. Like the fourth quarter of a game, I got to get this
Yeah.
done, and then you watch it back, and I got pretty good. I got some really good feedback, and that was one of the things that kept pushing me, because I feel like, yeah, it was biased. I did it in his hometown in front of his friends and family, but we talked to like the paper in Pittsburgh. We talked to
Yeah.
we talked to the local paper. Some lady came up to me and said, that was the best documentary I've ever seen. And for me as a first time filmmaker, confidence is a really big part of this, because I'm sitting there like, this story is horrible. Oh my God, what am I doing? I can't believe that I decided on this as a job, as a career. You have all these moments of doubt, self-doubt, where you're critical of yourself. But, I think the lesson that I learned is you're a little better than what you believe and what you think. So you're not the story that you tell yourself.
You said something about it being there, so them being biased. Let me tell you, doing it in front of people, that's actually more difficult than it being in front of other people. Because other people not a part of the story are gonna be like, oh, they can be But the people that actually know and were there and are from there, they're going to be way more critical. So the fact
Yeah.
that they liked it, that should have given you even more hype up to yourself as part of the process.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, you're right. I know. It's just one of those things where I'm tough on myself, man.
self-doubt. I think we all are. I think it's always going back to the good versus the evil. It's always the devil that's sitting on our other shoulder that's telling us, you know what, you can't do this. You won't, and it wants us to be stuck in that cycle of going through sin and living a life that's unproductive because that's what they want. You know, you started your production company Q3 Media in 2013. What made you decide to bet on yourself and start with your own?
I quit a corporate job I didn't quit. I got laid off
Yeah.
in 2012. And I was sitting around looking for work, and it was just the same old inside sales jobs. I liked my job because I made a good portion of money, but I didn't like sales because you got to be a little underhanded to make good money. So, I didn't have I had it in me, but it felt slimy at
Yeah.
times. So, I was just trying to think of what I could do. And a couple of years prior, I lost a defensive MVP trophy for the season. And so I hopped on YouTube and I made a video, and I told the coaches, I told the league owner that I was gonna give him a wedgie. And I was gonna dive into, like, I was just reckless. I talk crazy, and that kind of, like, in some circles it kind of made me like a personality.
Yeah.
So, like, one of my homies called me Mr. YouTube, but it was kind of doing those things with my degree, my undergrad degree, and like knowing how to make sketches and skits and working on small things like that kind of led me to, hey, I could make a video that's 30 seconds long. Or can I make a video that's a minute long? Can I make a video that's 5 minutes long? So, the more that this has evolved, the longer my videos have become. So, I was doing 20-minute essay videos for an old channel, and the next phase of evolution is, can I hold people attention for an hour to an hour and a half and tell a story? So that's how this kind of progressed from me playing football. And I got a list on my wall of people who I got to get revenge on. I had somebody who told me I couldn't do it. I said I was gonna get on YouTube and make money, and they weren't too enthused by my decision making. So we went our separate ways, and I just been out to prove them wrong this entire time.
You've generated over 100 million views through your content. When you first started creating, did you ever imagine that you would reach so many people?
It's funny because, like,
To think that, right?
yeah, you say no, but like that's the goal, and it's really funny. Like my 10-year anniversary of I made a Crying Jordan parody when it was like at its peak.
Yeah.
And when North Carolina lost the NCAA tournament to Villanova, I posted it. I had made it like probably 6 to 8 months earlier, and it didn't
Yeah.
get any traction. And I made it again. I posted it again after that, and it blew up. It got like 100,000 views on Twitter, and then this company online saw me and they were like, hey, we want to work with you. I blew them off until I finished Brian's final fight when I
Yeah.
was filming, and then I went to work with them because I didn't have anything going after that. So I started working for that channel immediately after doing Brian's channel, and then it kind of took off from there.
Crazy. Isn't it crazy to think, like, when you start reeling off accomplishments and stuff, you even was like, damn, it's been that many?
I googled like all of the top videos I had, and it's like, wow, I was doing numbers, man. And it's like I wasn't like focusing on the views because it wasn't my channel. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like 2 million, 3 million. I think the largest one is like 3.5 million. It's probably higher than that now, but it's like, it's stupid for me to say, I didn't think I'd make it this far. I didn't think I'd get this many views when the goal was to make it this far and get this many views.
I know, right? Isn't that always crazy how,
it's
like, we
crazy.
think, you work with some incredible people, athletes, entertainers, projects, Ronda Rousey. What did those experiences teach you about operating at a higher level?
I want to say it was a combination of desire, luck, and just being prepared. Like, I look back at a lot of my stuff, and some of it's cringe, some of it's timely, some of it still fits, but it was just, I think about going after those opportunities. In 2019, like, I briefly moved out here because of that Ronda Rousey interview. And it was like I was out here, I was only supposed to be out here for a month. I ended up being out here for about 4 or 5 months. And it turned into, more opportunity for myself, more opportunity for the person that I shot it for. And it led to other opportunities. I've had, I've shot for Impact Wrestling. I shot a Titantron video, and that's all through just me being able to say, yeah, I'll do it. Yes. Yeah. Like, one of the things that really stands out to me is just because growing up in poverty, for me, it was like, I always got to say yes to something because it could lead to something more. And if you say no, you're probably going to miss out on an opportunity. So my, like, Liar Liar with Jim Carrey is one of my favorite movies, but Yes Man's pretty good too. It's the same thing, but it's like I would just say yes. Like, I drove all my rickety cars to, I drove my car to St. Louis one time to film that Titantron video, and I didn't know if I'd make it back, but it just is what it is. I got to figure it out. That's a problem for future Quan to figure out. And right now,
that's when the Quantumaniac comes out.
Yeah, and that's like right now, like, I've never set myself up in the future for something greater until recently. And, that's the kind of the duality of saying yes to everything and the fear. It's like, if you don't do it, you're stuck in the same spot. But if you do it, you have to continue to do it. So, that's one of the big things that I've taken away from this. It's a lot of bravado in it.
I want you to take one thing out of it. You keep saying luck, but I want you to take that out, because luck is for somebody who doesn't deserve it and for somebody who just happenly falls into something. You've worked,
yeah.
I've seen you work countless hours in the lab. I've seen you under hell, I've even put you through tight damn time frames and stuff like that, and ask you to jump through hoops that probably most people couldn't do. So I want you to start taking that luck thing out, because luck isn't something. You're blessed and highly anointed because you do the right things. And like we talked about being the hero, because you are in that mindset of constantly doing the right things and saying yes to things and doing all that you can, you're blessed with those things. That's not luck.
I don't think luck is a negative thing or a haphazard thing. I think it's prepper. Like, the opportunity is there for me to show off my skills, and I am lucky. Like, a lot of the situations I've been in and the time frames that I've had, like, it's been a small amount of luck. I'm not attributing it to that completely. I do got skills, and that's one of the things that
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't want you to lack on that, because for real, you got skills. Because I'm weird about who I align with, and definitely weird about, as you know, who I do business with. And so, that's one thing. Was there ever a moment when you step back and realize this is actually happening?
Right now, I think is the moment. I make plans a lot. I tell people my plans a lot because, I'm trying to talk myself into it. And me making this film was supposed to happen before I made Brian's film. But I thought it was smart to call an audible because Brian has a name that he carries, and that potentially could have launched my career into another stratosphere if his story takes off. And this is my passion project. I want this to be, I don't want to say 100% perfect, but this is the project that all this success lies on. I think I've done more in the last 2 months for this project publicly than the entire 7 or 8 years that I've been working on it. And it's received positive feedback. People are interested in the stories. And it's one of those things where it's like, this is the right time to do it because it's the right time to do it. And I've always wondered, what's next for me? Is this what I should be doing? And everything I'm doing feels natural. So I think I've maneuvered and manipulated my way into the proper timeline of what I'm supposed to be doing, along with, feeling of alignment with it.
Yeah, you can tell that you kind of got that Bruce Leroy
I got the
glow,
glow. Yeah, I
and
got
you
the
got
glow.
the
That's exactly
glow.
what I was thinking about. Yeah.
I brought it up the other day. I had somebody on the podcast. I can't remember who it is, and I said something about it, and you could tell they obviously wasn't in the same genre that I was in. They were like, "Huh? What?" And I was like, "Bruce Leroy, shown up."
Yeah, I'll beat the master.
You know, you created the documentary speaking about this, The Beast, The Final Fight, about boxer Brian Minto. For people who don't know his story, who is Brian
I
Minto?
think he's a dreamer, man. I've I've known Brian for over 10 years, and his story fascinated me the first time I saw it, heard it. It fascinated me the last time I saw it and heard it. He was like, one of the things early on in the movie, like his mentor was like, yo, I'm surprised he's still alive. I'm surprised this guy is still alive. And it's a sobering thing that everybody else in the documentary agreed with that notion. Like, he was a troubled youth. He came from, a lot of drug abuse, drug use. His father was, violent, and, it just wasn't a loving home. And
Yeah.
he, like, that was who he was. And he found sports as an outlet. And when he was at his lowest, he took a risk. And I think he's a dreamer because he took that risk on one Christmas fight. He won $400, and it just snowballed into a 16-year career. And, no matter what competition they put in front of him, no matter what, he was like, this is for my family, and I'm going to go out there. I'm going to put on a show. I'm going to do my best. And more times than not, he won. And he won in some of the biggest fights. He won against some of the biggest names. Like, people were setting up comebacks. He was just supposed to be a pushover, and he became a pivotal cornerstone in 2010's box in the heavyweight division. And it's something that you can't take from him. So, if you have a dream that you are sitting on, you don't see it in the realm of possibility. I've documented a story firsthand where a man had the same, thought process as you. And I'm telling you, you can do it.
That's powerful. That's
Listen,
powerful.
man. I'm gonna watch it again here soon, just because I haven't watched it in a long time. But Brian's story is powerful, and I hope we get a chance to show it to a lot more people really soon.
That's awesome. You know, you filmed his final fight. What was it like capturing that moment kind of as the last chapter of his career?
It was special. He was, a solo boxer. Like, he truly went at it alone a lot of the time. He didn't have the right people in his corner mostly. So towards the end of his career, when there wasn't like higher paydays to be made, he was just going out there and fighting, just to kind of wrap up his career, make some money, and get out. And, I was like, I want to help, because I had the idea for this movie in mind, and the final fight was a big portion of it. So, I did what I could to help sell the fight, and I just tried to make it as special as possible. And I don't feel like I did it when we did the fight. I felt like we could have sold more tickets, and it was just, circumstance with his hometown, and, just him not having the star power that he had when he came back there previously. But I think I kind of made up for it with this documentary, because we're getting a lot more opportunities, and all over town. I don't want to say this, but I'm kind of a star in Butler. I've gone back a couple times, and they recognize me. They like, hey man, what you got going next? And we love the documentary. You did a great job. So it feels good knowing that I told a good story, and it's given me the opportunity to think about telling the next race.
That's awesome. He is, when you told me like he was the real life Rocky, and then watching the documentary, he is definitely the real life Rocky. You know, you've done things most creators dream about, but you've also still talked about feeling like it wasn't enough at times. Why do you think that happens to a lot of creators?
I just think it's the nature of being an artist in capitalism. Like, all of the people that have reaped the most benefits off my work aren't me. So, like, the company that I have most of my views for they probably made close to $500,000 off of the stuff that I've done and said. And, the previous companies I worked for, they've taken my work, they've gotten sponsorship deals, and, I'm still just getting paid salary. So I think as an artist, you got to protect yourself, which, for me coming up is one of the things that I didn't really do because I wanted to do the art so bad, because I needed a job so bad. So with this filmmaking, I'm hoping to turn that corner and actually make some money off of the stuff that I make. So, I think it's just a matter of being underappreciated as an artist. People can't disconnect me, the person, from me, the artist. So it's like me saying that I have a following online doesn't matter to somebody like my mom. Like she wouldn't
Yeah.
understand it or anything along those lines.
True. What changed when you started letting go of expectations and about how things were supposed to go?
I think it's just perspective. Like one of the famous quotes is, I told God I had a plan and he laughed. And I think we as humans, we want it now. Like I've been wanting to escape from poverty for close to 25 years now. In the previous 14, I didn't even know I was in poverty. So as, somebody who creates and sees people, like I have professional jealousy. Like I see people who I know I have more talent than making a living and survive, not just surviving. So I think it's okay to want more out of your career and want finances and to see somebody that you work with reap the benefits. It's not a good situation, but it keeps a hunger alive in me, at least, to know that, okay, if they can do it, I can do it, because that's my thought process. I think I've inspired a lot of people to get into this field because they see me doing it and they're like, well, if Quan can do it, I can do it. And that's how I want people to feel. Like, I think if I can do it, you can do it, and I'll teach you and help you get there. But it's just something where, I'm at the point in my life where I have to become a better businessman and value and protect my art a lot more than I have.
Yeah, because there's a lot of poachers out here.
Man, no comment. I plead the fifth on that.
You said something powerful that you enjoy creating and just enjoying the ride now. How did you get into that mindset?
I can only control what I can control. And I may think something is the greatest thing since sliced bread, but you may not. And I have to accept that with what I put out. Because, I'll be in here editing stuff and I'll be cracking up. I'll be laughing my ass off. But it may not play that way. I may have, played the joke too early, or it's all about the timing and the rhythm and the pacing of the edit. It just may be something where the volume was too loud, too low, or it was something I messed up. There may be dogs barking in the background, whatever it may be.
Or somebody watering
Or
plants.
somebody watering plants while you film. Like, no matter what it may be, it just didn't happen that time. But it may happen the next time, or it may happen the next time. I've had videos go for 20,000 views and then the next go for 200. So, it's all about not having expectations on an outcome. I think we're here just living a life, and when you start demanding and expecting things and trying to force things to happen, you don't get to see the things that you create. So,
or the beauty within it.
The beauty in it all, man. Like I said, man, I'm really proud of the documentary I made last year, and no matter what, like, I did it, and nobody can take it from me, and it was what it was in the moment. But I can get better, and I can get worse. So it's all about the choice that I make. Do I get bitter or get better?
True story. You said something that stuck with me. The hardest part of life is just showing up every day. What did you mean by that?
Our football coach, Brandon Johnson, he played at Western Michigan. He would tell us, man, the hardest part is just getting out of bed and getting there. Once you're there, you're going to do it. Like, you have to do it. Somebody going to yell at you to do it no matter what it is. So if you make the conscientious decision to get up and go, you're already here. He would just yell at us. You're already here. So just do it. And that stuck with me a lot, because the hardest part is showing up, man. Like, you have to step out in the courage and go be somewhere that is unfamiliar to you. Like me living out here, I don't know anybody out here. You know, I when I moved out here, I did. I don't have anybody here anymore, so I gotta be my courageous, outgoing self if I want to make friends, or if I want to go play football, I gotta go be a football player. Like there are different hats that we wear that will keep us safe in social settings, and the only issue is your fear of showing up. Like everybody says, I think the number one fear is public speaking, and it's just because you don't know what to expect. You don't know what you're gonna get.
100%.
Yeah. So it's for me, it's if you show up, you could fake it, you could be you could duck off in the corner, whatever it may be. But if you show up, that's a victory in my book.
That's the hardest part. You said that you don't really fear ridicule or failure. Where does that mindset come from?
I've done some of the absolute dumbest things that if there was a camera following me, you would understand my mindset. But it's here's one. Like when I was first starting out, I made a skit about fake masturbating and my girlfriend catching me, and it's like, how can you have shame about anything after that when this is something that you put out for the internet? So it's it's people's ego step in when they think they're being looked at or whatever it may be. But I guarantee you that I'm probably dumber than half the people who criticize themselves or like have this fear of being shamed in public. Like whatever, man. If people are looking at you, they're probably insecure about something in their own life or whatever minor thing it is. I enjoy myself. I enjoy my life. I think I'm a light. I think I'm funny. I think I bring warmth, joy, and levity to every situation. And I'm a prankster. I'm a jokester, but I think I can brighten your day if you're having a bad one. And that's kind of how I approach everything. Like I don't let people know when I'm having a bad day or off day. I just try to show up and spread some positivity, spread some light. And if it don't work, you come back the next day and do the same thing.
One of a million reasons why we fuck with each other, because we're the same. You've got a big dream, a huge vision. You want to win an Oscar and make the greatest football movie ever made. What does that movie look like in your mind?
I'm going to tell you one better, man. I was sitting right here in this chair and, I have visions and dreams, and I was like kind of tilted this way, and I saw myself on a stage in an auditorium, and I took a seat, and I was overcome with emotion, and it was me giving an Oscar speech. And I've seen it multiple times. I've seen it in my dreams. I've seen it, after tripping. I've seen it just sitting here.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to say it's my first movie. I just want to say it's a movie that I make, because you have to make a movie to win an Oscar, and the odds aren't that crazy. Like if there's only 90 categories, you got a 1 in 90 chance to win an Oscar if you make a movie. So I got to get into, one of those categories. And I think it's just a 1 in 1,000 chance or 1 in 3 million chance or something for just like a regular human to win it. So, I'm already, if I can get above the 1 in 3 million scope, I can get to the 1 in
you in
1
the
in
game.
90. I'm in the game. That's
put
it.
Me in.
Yeah, that's
you want to win. You want to win. Put Quan in.
Put Quan in. Yeah, and that's like, I think it's just the thing that matters right now to me is the confidence to tell a story, and it's one of the hardest things to do. Like for me right now, it's telling the story and financing the story. So it's me trying to find like the confidence. Like I have to ask people for money. I do a lot of work that's pro bono just because I like helping people out. But now I'm in the mindset of, hey, I'm trying to make this film. I got to ask you to buy my work. I got to ask you to sponsor my stuff. I got to ask you to view my stuff. It's just these stepping stones of things that I don't like doing. I don't like practicing. I have to get better making videos because Brian's documentary was good, but some of the lighting could have been better. Some of the angles could have been better. There's just like this refinement of the process that I have to go through again that I went through last year. But, now I know the process and now I can refine it for this project. So it's practice, man. That's it.
Evolution.
Practice.
Evolution.
Yeah. We not talking about we talking about practice.
Alan I. Fast forward 30 or 40 years, and people are looking back at your body of work and your films. What do you hope they say about DeQwan Young?
I just hope they remember me. For me, being a football player, man, I had this thing called Barry Sanders syndrome. It's like I think I can win a Super Bowl with the Detroit Lions. Like that was my entire dream. Is I was gonna be the one to get drafted and take them to the Super Bowl and win it. And the Lions still haven't won a Super Bowl, and I didn't get drafted.
Still,
Yeah, but my idea was I could take anybody to the Super Bowl and win it with them. So if people are viewing my work 30 and 40 years from now, that's a win because you get like look at legacies now, man. It's a kid right now on the internet calling Michael Jordan trash, saying he played with plumbers. Like your legacy,
crazy.
yeah, your legacy is only what you make it because who knows what happens in capitalism that's going to lead some 14-year-old with with a haircut with hair leaning over his eyes to call you trash 20 to 30 years from now. That's just what the nature of living in this society is. It's just like here today, gone tomorrow. What have you done for me lately? So if there are people talking about me 20 to 30 years from now, I think I did something.
That's a dub.
Yeah.
That's a dub.
Yeah.
What do you want your work to represent?
I want to be the voice of the underdogs, man. I got a lot of work that is rooted in being the underdog and being a superhero and doing the right thing. And, those are things that are surely missing in this economy on this rock.
It's hard out here for a parent.
Yeah. So, a lot of the stories that I'm writing are, I don't want to say deeply personal, but they have a personal element to it. So, I want to give people a sense of morality, integrity, and I want them to leave the theater feeling like they can make a difference.
100%. I know for me, that's why when I got ready to do the documentary about my story, first thing I was like, people were like, oh, I've got a friend. And I was like, no. I've got a guy who I know to tell my story because I know that you're going to give it that oomph and that dedication. If there was somebody that's watching who feels like they're unheard, that like the weight of the world is on them and they just want to give up, what advice would you give?
Keep going. You don't know who's watching. You don't know what thing that you say that will spark something in somebody. I get messages all the time from people that saw me, in the past, and they say, like, I got one a couple weeks ago where kid was like, I used to watch your videos before I got on the bus. I was a part of somebody's routine. Like before they went to school, they would watch me on YouTube or TV, like whatever their viewing medium was, and that would be the start of their day. And something I would say either made them happy, it excited them, they agree with it, or it pissed them off. And I think that's enough emotion to get you to keep going. I don't think you want to piss people off all the time, but I think one of the things about creating content and being an artist is having an emotional connection with the people that watch your work. So, thank you. Like, I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart if you've ever clicked on a video with my face on it. But keep going, man. It doesn't matter the view count. It doesn't matter the likes, any of that. If you can find a moment to express yourself creatively, artistically, do it. And if people relate to it, they're going to follow you. And if they don't relate to it, you just got to find somebody who will.
Yeah. This podcast is called the Front Porch Chronicles. I want you to imagine we're both old men. I'm already old, but you're an old man with me. Sitting on the porch one day looking back on life. When you think about that story, what do you hope mattered the most?
I hope it corrected somebody's course. I hope that if they were down, they bounced back. I hope that if they saw something in the movie that woke them up, it gives them encouragement, confidence, and the bravery to do what they need to do to get out of the situation that they're in. Because nobody's coming to save you. Nobody gives a shit. You're not in this alone, but you have to take the first step by yourself. And then people will walk with you on the path. Man, I'm on fire today. Holy shit. Who is this coming out?
I'm talking about, bruh. What? I'm
It's
talking
just
about
oozing out.
church on a Thursday. I'm talking about take that mic. I want you to hold that mic in your hand, and I want you to drop it. Cause boy, you teaching a sermon today. Fuego, viral moments just popping off everywhere. I want you to know, for me, you inspire me. I know a lot of times you don't give yourself credit or you don't see your eyes through that lens. So I'm gonna hit you with some truths that I tell you, but I want to tell you again and remind you, you inspire me because you've been through a lot of shit throughout your life and you've been knocked down a million times, but every time you get up and you keep going, number one. But number two is that kid that loved those heroes and wanted to be the hero. You're a hero to a lot of people because every day you make them want to get up. There's been countless times where you say that I've helped you by coming down. You don't know how many times you talking to me or having a conversation with me has saved me from stepping off over the ledge. So you are that light that you want to be. You're already that light. Just keep shining, brother, because you are a lot to a lot of people, and I from
Come
the
on, man.
bottom of my heart appreciate you, man.
Come on, man.
So
We gotta wrap up. You can't be having me
I
crying
know.
on it.
I know. Look, see, look,
It's
that
the
ain't look.
It's
That's
the
my allergies.
It's the
Yeah,
allergies.
pollen's
It's
heavy right
every.
now with the Santa Ana winds.
It's
you know,
everywhere.
but I appreciate you for coming on, and you already know if you ever need me, I'm always here for you. Um, if you want, if you would, I'm gonna drop it in the link on the YouTube. But if you want to throw out your social media so people can kind of come on there and follow your journey, follow the movie, and just follow your content, I guarantee people you will not be unimpressed because the man is legendary. I'm just saying.
You can follow me on Cube Media, Q3_media, Quality Sports with a W, Quality Films with a W, Quality TV with a W, QWALITY TV Film Sports. That's all across every social media network. We got to keep the branding in line. But yeah, and buy a ticket to the draft process. I'm doing my first screening November 12th. I'm going to be in every city in the country if I can. Stay tuned to DeQwanYoung.com for announcements. And that's it.
Stay tuned, people. Tune into this man, and we'll see you next week on the front porch.